my point being here is if you actually want to create really good sounding improv in bebop, it's a combination of three things: skips, steps, and bebop approaches. Now, I'm not talking about bebop approaches today, but I just want you to hear the balance now between the skips and the steps.
If you hate chord scales, if you don't want to learn them, if you don't know why you need to learn them, then this particular podcast lesson video is for you. I'm going to explain all about that. My name is Brendan Lowe, creator and founder of Jazz Piano School. Don't forget to check out jazzpianoschool.com to see all the free education. And if you're interested in taking some next steps, we do have a membership courses and even live teaching programs available. With that being said, let's dive right in.
All right, so this is going to absolutely blow your mind and hopefully help you demystify the confusion around chord scales, modes, and why you need them. So in my improvisation system that I teach, the very first step is you need to learn chord tones. You need to learn how to be able to solo with them, because the reason is when I play a D dominant 7th chord, right? In jazz, we're playing chords and we're trying to improvise over the chords. I'm playing 4 notes within this chord. So these 4 notes directly represent the sound of the chord. So it kind of makes sense that we need to actually use these notes in our solo to have our improv sound good. Because if I'm using notes that aren't related to this chord, like let's say E flat, G flat, B flat, and D flat, it's going to sound like this. That sounds pretty awful, doesn't it? Right? So if you're hitting notes outside the chord, stuff like this, it's going to sound absolutely terrible. Right? So we really need to start with the 4 notes that directly represent the chords that we're playing over in any jazz standard, any tune. So we'll start off with these 4 notes: D, F sharp, A, and C, and I can create a solo just out of that. So on and so forth, right? Now, clearly that doesn't sound like jazz for a lot of reasons, right? Obviously, you're probably a very intelligent person. You can tell I'm only using 4 notes to improvise with. So the next step, after you start to get the hang of creating solos in chord tone with the use of chord tones through lead sheets, right? You'd go through a lead sheet, you learn all the chord tones, and then you start to try to create solos just by using chord tones. So let's say I just take a 2-5-1, right? 2-5-1s are very prominent and show up in jazz standards all the time. I'll keep this D7 chord, I'll go from an A minor 7 to a D7 to a G major 7. So that's just a 2-5-1 in the key of G, right? So if we were playing a tune in the key of G, you'd see a lot of 2-5-1s in the key of G. So I'm going to use all the chord tones from every chord to improvise over that 2-5-1. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do it again. Last time. Okay. So it's, again, it doesn't sound like jazz yet, but we're building a foundation here. This is really how you start to fill in the holes and gaps and build a solid foundation for your improv. Now, again, clearly, I'm just using 4 notes. So you can imagine if I were to improvise over a whole entire jazz standard just using chord tones, what is happening there, right? Let's look at the shape of the chord. We have D, F sharp, A, and C. Now, besides me going from C to D, because those are both chord tones, right, which creates a whole step. That's a step, right? 1 whole step. Everything else that I'm playing is skips by thirds, right? Some kind of third. And even if I go from D to A, that's more than a third. It's a 5th, right? So we have all these different skips. Okay, now here's what's going to blow your mind and hopefully just completely solve all the confusion, the resistance, the hesitancy from you trying to learn chord scales. If all you did in your jazz improv was play chord tones for the rest of your life, you would only be playing skips in your solo every single time. Now, what do skips sound like? They sound great. Are they used in bebop? Absolutely, right? A lot of skips are used in bebop. Right? Something like that, or right? Lots of skips are used, but there's a very, very, very important component and tool that is also used to create wonderful, beautiful jazz improvisation all the time. Do you know what that is? It's the opposite of skips. It's steps. Steps, right? Now, steps can be categorized or defined as a whole step or a half step. Now, steps connect notes together. They give us fluid, scalar motion because all of our skips are going to be hiccupy, right? They're skips and jagged. So again, like you heard, that sounds all over the place because it is. I'm using skips. Listen to what happens when I start to use steps. God, how gorgeous is that, right? Is that not beautiful? Is that not just sweet music to the ears? Now, the reason it sounds so good because I gave you the contrasting texture of skips previously, and then going from skips to steps, now you're like, ooh, the fluidity of the connection and the smoothness. Now, what tool was I using there, right? I'm using chord scales. I'm using chord scales to connect my chord tones together and create one of the most important components of improv that you need to know how to do, right? Now, if you don't know the chord scale associated with this D7 chord and you go to connect your chord tones or you go to create some fluid, smooth motion, right? Like ice, okay? You might play something like this. Now, obviously, depending upon your art, you might get some comments or feedback. Oh, that doesn't sound that bad, Brendan. That sounds like modern jazz. Yeah, whatever. So my point being here is if you actually want to create really good sounding improv in bebop, it's a combination of three things: skips, steps, and bebop approaches. Now, I'm not talking about bebop approaches today, but I just want you to hear the balance now between the skips and the steps. Okay, so if I play over my D7 now, creating a balance between skips and steps, here's what it sounds like. Right? Much better. We have a balance between the skips and the steps. With all skips, it sounds too hiccupy, too jagged, too broken. With all steps, it sounds just like scales, chord scales, and that's where students get stuck. How do I translate scales to improv? Well, it's not just about the scale. It's about the balance between the scale and the skips. Okay, that's where the real magic starts to happen. Now, if I play over a 2-5-1 just using skips and steps, here's what it might sound like. Right? And already, sorry, I should have finished that line off. Already, you start to really hear how bebop unfolds and takes on an easy pathway to excellence, right? An easy, clear, step-by-step way that you can start to learn improv because of the chord scales. Now, like I said, if you don't know your chord scales, guess what you're not going to be able to do? You're not going to be able to connect these 4 chord tones together in a nice, smooth manner. You're not going to be able to create any fluidity within your solo, any type of lines that just run down a scale. How gorgeous was that? That was just a scale running down, right? So again, if you don't know your chord scales, this major tool and sound in improv is not going to be able to happen. So when I hear students or I hear people say, oh, you don't need to learn your modes, you don't need to learn your chord scales, well, unfortunately, you could do that, but I promise you, you're never going to get to the level that you're striving to get to if you're a passionate enthusiast and jazz pianist that wants to really sound like a pro. I can promise you that. Okay, the truth is hard to hear sometimes, but honestly, it does open up a lot of doors for the people that are driven and really want to become successful in this amazing music. So hopefully that helps you break down the reason you need to know chord scales. In the next podcast lesson, we're going to actually be practicing some of these chord scales. I'm going to show you some amazing ways to do this, what I recommend, and what I recommend to all my mastermind students who just wrapped up their 9-month Inner Circle Mastermind live teaching program with me. I actually sent them off on this amazing practice exercise over the summer until the mastermind opens up again in the fall. And in the next podcast episode, I'm going to show you all about that secret practice exercise I gave them, because I promise you it'll completely open up amazing improvisational doors for your steps, right? Your steps and your scalar motion that you'll now begin to use with skips. Again, I haven't gone over skips yet, but this is what we'll be practicing. You'll be practicing with me, so it'll be awesome. If you are interested in my Improvisational Mastery Specialty course, which goes over all of this in complete detail with full practice exercises, learn videos, practice videos, and all of the knowledge that I'm sharing here way more in depth, you can get a discount on that particular specialty course by going to jazzpianoschool.com/improv discount. Now, you'll have a short time window to go ahead and make your purchase with that discount. So just be prepared that, if that is something you want to look at and consider, you can kind of go to the webpage, take a little glance at that, and it will offer you a significant discount. With that being said, I hope you guys tune into the next podcast in which you'll be doing some practicing of your chord scales. And of course, now you'll know why you actually need to practice and work on your chord scales, because they're so important in what I just demonstrated today. Okay, with that being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic day and happy practicing.
Well, if you enjoyed that video lesson, definitely go ahead and subscribe to the Jazz Piano School YouTube channel, because we release a new lesson video just like the one you saw every single week. And we have other content educational series called Tips, Tricks, and Transcriptions that we release every single week as well. And don't forget to go to jazzpianoschool.com to check out all of the other amazing free education available there. And if you're looking to take some next steps on your jazz piano journey, we do have a membership available, many courses, and even live teaching programs that allow you to work with myself and my staff of Jazz Piano School educators. My name is Brendan Lowe, creator and founder of Jazz Piano School. Thank you so much for watching, and happy practicing.